You, Shobana, built India's largest pharmacy, Apollo Pharmacy.
During COVID-19 pandemic, Apollo 24/7 is clocking 3,000 crore rupees in revenue.
You built India's largest medicine distribution network, and you built India's largest online healthcare platform, Apollo 24/7. How did you develop this mindset?
My guys came to me and said, there's a company that opened 40 pharmacies this month. I said, what's the name of that company? I said, how can he start this? This is this thing, and why should I not be that?
So coming from, a reasonably well-off family to start with, to be such a roll-up-your-sleeves kind of person, I just want to understand that secret sauce.
So first of all, I think that what I do really well is to...
When you built Apollo 24/7, what problem were you trying to solve?
In a lot of people's lifetimes, they'll never visit a hospital. About 80% of healthcare is outside the hospital. So that's the problem that we were trying to solve. One is that we'll give you medicine seamlessly. We'll deliver it to you. The second thing is, I'll give you an Apollo doctor in 15 minutes. And the third thing is, I'll give you diagnostics at home. But I felt that the best part of this platform is your health records. If you've had a test at Apollo, it automatically populates. It'll give me a graph. I didn't know I was BRCA2. The incidence that you would have breast cancers goes to 60%. I caught it so early again because of Apollo.
I would love to understand, how do you run businesses while being a mother of 3 people?
The secret sauce? I lived with my mother-in-law. For the life of me, I don't know what goes on in a kitchen. She provided that great stability and strength to the house. Beauty about being a middle child is you don't want to be the first at anything. You just want to be the best at it. Sometimes the value of not being the pioneer, there's a big value in that. In some of our business, whether it was insurance, there were other insurance companies. I didn't have to be the first. I just had to be the best.
Right.
My husband also said, you're always your father's daughter. I'll always be there. Your life is Apollo. But can you be successful on your own? That's when
Today on our show, we have Shobana Kamineni, one of India's most successful female entrepreneurs by a mile. She built India's largest pharmacy, India's largest digital health platform, and India's largest medicine distribution network. Triple unicorn. Imagine 3 multi-billion-dollar businesses all from scratch within her family's company. But what she's most excited about right now is the convergence of all the things that she's built. Imagine every medical record that you have, every test, every conversation analyzed by AI and then shareable with any doctor, all on your phone, available anytime. This is truly the future of healthcare and something that I've been waiting for a long time. So watch it till the end. Let's just pause. Subscribing here isn't just about supporting our channel. It's about choosing what kind of thinking you want around you regularly. So if that resonates, you know what to do. For someone who doesn't know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are and what you do?
I'm a good daughter of a very, very famous father. And I think I'm a nice sister also, that they're my co-workers. So together as a family, we just got passionately involved in healthcare. And then it became a mission, because I think the way that my father was able to, we were very young, I think we were promoters. I never like to say that I'm a Nepo.
Yes.
I was, straight out of college. He didn't even have the first hospital. I actually worked with the architects, laid all those things. So I think that we built something truly special for India. And we did it at a time when you could be really good and you had all the right reasons for doing that, bringing the best to India, getting the best equipment, getting the doctors, putting it right. And so when people came, your major purpose was curing them. I sometimes feel that nowadays, people are driven by so many different metrics, quarter on quarter. What's your profit? What's your this thing? How much can you cut people's salary and all that? So many things that happen, So if you ask me, we got into it early and we were fortunate. We did it right. And one of the best things I can think about for us and for India is that we really took it to scale. There could have been a lot of people that would have been happy with one hospital, but I don't think that was my dad's mentality. And it kind of, that passion was infused in all of us. So here we are, 45 years later. And today when somebody says Apollo, they don't have to say a hospital. It's like synonymous with health.
But I also know that there's another side to you in the little bit of time I've spent with you, which is a more individual side, which is you, the Shobana. So what is it that Shobana, if I ask Shobana, what does she do? What does she do?
I'm a flight risk.
You're a flight risk.
I always think that, I get these really important things and then I say, what am I doing with this? And when it came to building all these hospitals, it came around to running it. And at that point, I said, I can't do this. I'm a project person. I got married, and it was an arranged marriage, and it was, my husband and I are like South Pole, North Pole. He's such a gentleman with this, and then here I am, and I'm thrown into Hyderabad from Chennai, where I was like the boss of that hospital and doing all my own thing and playing squash. And here you have to conform. But this conformity troubled me at that time. When you stick into it, it's the same thing when I started doing things, CII. And I said, oh, wow, I'm president. And then every single day I was kind of worried whether I'd get impeached for speaking out. But all this, so if you ask me, that's the first thing I would say. So
you're saying you were working with the hospital before you got married.
Yeah.
You were helping build the hospitals.
Right.
And you built one or two, or I don't know how many before you got married.
Our three largest
were built quite a while back.
Before I was 30.
Got it.
I think at a point it really was that doing what I was doing, and I said, and my husband also said, you're always your father's daughter. I'll always be there. Your life is Apollo, but can you be successful on your own? And that kind of was a challenging point that we said, okay, let's do this. And that's when I started many things. I started a shipping company. I sold it like at a huge profit. Same thing.
You did? Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, in my 30s, I dabbled with real estate. You always make money with real estate, but I kept selling early because one big thing I realized, if I was just doing these things of the short-term stuff, I would do okay, but you would never create this big thing. So I had to commit into it. And at that point, I went back to Anil and I said, my heart is really in Apollo. Can I this thing back? Because we did this, established.
Can I go back there?
Yeah. So then we discussed this. He said, yeah, the interdependency, kids are in school, this thing, what do let's, and then I go back and to the family and say, well, and I had actually I was employee number 4, but I took the separation. I actually got all the papers and also I had to rejoin almost. And at that point, they, everyone was very set. Pritaka was there. She was the boss. Sunita was doing finance. Sangeeta was in ops and everything that they were doing. And I was always associated kind of with the pharmacy. So they said, why don't you just keep doing that? And it was like one small little, no one knew what this is. We just served the hospitals and just did this. And I had
like it was kind of part of the hospital, like how every hospital has a pharmacy downstairs,
something
kind of
like that. Right. And then these guys, so one day in the late 2000s, my guys came to me and said, there's a company that opened 40 pharmacies this month. I said, what's the name of that company? And they said, MedPlus. I said, how can he start this? This is this thing. And why should I not be that? So I asked them, how many do we have? And we said, we have actually, around our hospitals, we had 200. So then I got a retail guy, a consultant, because Dad always believed that we needed these pharmacies because he never trusted medicine in those days. This was in the this was in the 80s and 90s.
Oh.
So the spurious drugs and all that. Being a doctor, that was his motivation. Let me put a pharmacy around.
You have the
24
end to
hours.
end. So you don't say take this medicine, the guy goes to some terrible place and gets the wrong medicine. Right.
So this is the reason. So we learned retail, and then suddenly in 2012-13, that was eureka for them, because they started seeing we have more than 1,000 pharmacies. Our turnover was maybe at that point 25% of Apollo's revenue, and we're profitable. So they said, wow, what's going on here?
This is a real thing.
And by that time, I think I had also, established, because they gave me one TPA. And I said, what is a third-party assurance? It's just one little bridge between insurance companies and this. And that was the time when India was opening up to private insurance. So I said, why don't I do that too? So here I was suddenly, for get back into work. And it was almost 8 years of just doing this. And suddenly they realized she's actually kind of important.
There's some value to the rebel. I would love to understand, I'm sure everybody would love to understand, how do you run businesses while being a mother of 3 people?
The truth, and take so many flights a week.
Even then?
Yeah. I told you I've been doing it for 40 years.
Yeah, I didn't do the
6 flights.
Got it.
You know the secret sauce? I lived with my mother-in-law. I lived with my in-laws.
Yes.
And they provided the stability of the house.
Right.
And to tell you the truth, for the life of me, I don't know what goes on in a kitchen.
Right.
I'm a good hostess. I can order everything.
Right.
But if you ask me to cook, I can make an egg.
Delegation
and I
is
think,
important.
So these are the things. And I understood it early. I was not shy about it that, oh, she's this thing. And my husband never made, a big deal about it.
Right.
It was cool. And we were all just, she provided that great stability and strength to the house. Funnily enough, it's also the secret sauce of all my 3 sisters.
Right.
Because we all lived with our in-laws.
And how did you see yourself within your family? Because you're the third of 4 sisters. So how did you see yourself in that whole situation?
So the interesting thing is that at one of our strategy meetings, we were also, asked to present, and I turned around and said, the beauty about being a middle child is you never are, you don't want to be the first at anything with that. It's not your driving force. You just want to be the best at it. So I don't care that my 2 sisters are there, but it doesn't mean that I can't be the best. And sometimes the value of not being the pioneer, there's a big value in that. So my sisters fought a lot of battles for me. And in the, of course, Apollo was a pioneer, but in some of our business, whether it was insurance, there were other insurance companies. I didn't have to be the first. I just had to be the best.
Right.
And I think that mindset, it doesn't matter whether you're number 1, 2, 3, 4.
In a way, you're free from that massive pressure to just do your thing, basically.
Be an inheritor. Oh, you're first. You have to do this. You have to be the perfect child. Fortunately, they had my sister Preeta, perfect child.
Right.
I think that if we didn't have a hospital, I would love to have been an architect. I just love buildings. So to me, it was the most time that I would sit in his office, understand. So even today, I can read the plans. I know costing. I know how to get the project work done. I used to be at the site till 11 in the night.
Wow.
And those were the days that, I really loved. I would go play squash and come back and go back to the site and say, what's the next shift? And I'd sit there with...
So you were a very hands-on
at that time,
person with physical things. I can see that you like to get your hands dirty, basically.
With this. You have to understand the business. Like even today, if you ask me about the pharmacy, 3-4 levels down, I do know what's going on because I said, this is something that I truly, and to me in the tech part, when I got into it, this is something that I feel that as an entrepreneur, if you don't know your business, you can't just think that, that
you have to know the core.
will fall in place.
Like if you have a factory,
And I know that when I was doing my job, I had a different perspective from the project engineer, because you're coming from an owner mindset and how you look at it. So at that point, that's what I was learning, how to be an owner, how to look at it, because I was reporting to them and saying that to me this mattered, of how, you'd pour the perfect concrete, or you would design it to save this much space, and is it more. So I worked with doctors and drew that. So it was the first purpose-built hospital. I installed India's first CT scan. Can you imagine?
Wow.
I was in that cement in the night and did all that. So I get it.
Amazing.
Of how, you put in this thing. And later on, of course, our hospitals got better. We understood. So, Delhi, for instance, the back of the house is beautiful. You can drive a truck through it. Before, when it was this thing, people always would say that, the front should look cool, it should look grand, it should this thing for the patients. And they largely ignored the services. I think this is something that we really went into and said, this is important to run it. It's a big machine. You have to put it all together. So that's what I did. And
did you study global,
enjoyed.
like Mayo Clinic or any of those hospitals when you were building this?
Visited many and worked with so at that point, the equipment companies, so you were only buying foreign equipment from Europe and the US. So they would come and they would tell us, and they'd draw the designs and get those. So there was a lot of learning.
Your dad is a doctor. Your dad is a doctor. But none of you 4 sisters became doctors, even though you are so entrenched in the family business, which is medical. How did that happen?
Preeta actually got a seat, and my father later on said that I told them not to give you this thing because, again, traditional family, he thought it would really ruin our family life, because to him, medicine was practiced that he didn't care if he didn't see us.
Right.
It was like, mom had the complete
Got
brain.
it. He was busy the whole day, right?
He was busy the whole day. This is what I'm doing. So he did that for so many years. And it was only later that, we started getting really, like, he became,
when he built a business with you all.
With all of us. So
he thought you'll all be practicing doctors, and that'll be the end of your family life, basically.
Exactly.
Right. So, how sweet.
And I was never interested.
Right.
There was no charm in that for me.
I just want to talk a little bit more about your, initial years. So you left the family business because you are a real estate magnate and a shipping magnate and all that stuff.
Hey, I was a failure in real estate.
Tell us about that. Tell us what you learned from that.
So those were the heyday. Like, I knew how to identify great real estate. But the thing is, I just trusted, because I didn't want to, it's very tough for a woman to be in that and to do it. And my husband had real strict boundary conditions, no black money coming in and all. How do you do real estate in those days?
In those days,
without
impossible.
any of that? So without any of that, I sold too quickly at points, and sometimes I let it go. And I realized at that point, when I looked at it, I had some of the best high-tech city.
Right.
I had 50 acres.
My God.
Even now, some people say she had it and she lost all that. But I think it's also good to have some of these failures, because they're big learnings. And I realized if you don't do it yourself with that, and if you don't get into the details, especially in real estate, and the thing is, you have to have that mindset of wanting to game the system. I didn't have any of the skills. I didn't have all 3 skills. If I had known it earlier, I should not have entered. But it's not like I lost money. I sold it, but I sold it for, like, instead of 1000x, you sell it for 10x. But I got out of it, and I said, okay, my stars don't suit this. So then I did a couple of businesses here and there, and, really understood what it is to be an entrepreneur, that people are dependent on you for their, the salary checks and things like that, which is a good thing. It's a good learning. And then, of course, I started the distribution business. India has like thousands and thousands of distributors. So you'd go in a hospital or a pharmacy, there'll be like 200 distributors sending you. So, the same thing. And if they give that guy $100 more, it'll this thing. So I said, this is crap, how do I do it? But it was such an established system in India that we couldn't put it inside the pharmacy. And very innocently I said, okay, let me start a separate company. And we started that. And at that point, when we started that distribution company, and we're publicly listed, so this whole RPT, and it really pained us, even though we did it for the right reasons. So we said, okay, let me do this model. And I'm telling you, the kids, even now, we should write a case study about the Keimed model. So I went to the biggest distributors. We all studied, So in Chennai, my first one, I went to Palipo and I said, hey, how would you feel if I gave you my entire business from the hospital and the pharmacy? You supply to us, clean from the manufacturer, comes to you, comes there. You will get this much business. And I will pay you for your business. I'll pay you 51%. And he said, why? What's going on? And they said, for sure. And it was a business that at that time was some 90 crores. Today he is 2,000 crores.
But you own 51% of it.
No, now I own everything.
Got it.
We ultimately bought. So like this, we created a model where we kept them as entrepreneurs. So in Bombay, for instance, 20% of all Bombay's medicine is supplied by us.
Right.
By this. Chennai, it's 30%.
Right.
So like that, we bought the best distributors in the country. Now, whatever Onthro does and all these other guys that started this model was the model that I had, that we owned 51%. And then later, we said, let's all come together, and we built that as one big company. It's like a 15,000 crore company. But, and we supply to about 100,000 other pharmacies. So, and this is something that, audited with RPT beautifully, this thing. Now we're merging it into this new company. That's the time when I really learned how to work with, in a leadership position of how to manage these entrepreneurs, professionals, and this thing. And I think that's very important for any leader. You have to be, your most thing is your instinct to be able to get the best from everybody.
So just to understand, so in the Apollo distribution business, you developed this model because distributors were all entrepreneurs all over India.
Yeah.
Bombay had one, Chennai had one, every city had their own distribution, kind of a family businesses, many family business. And you went to each of them and you did like a joint venture with them. You bought a share of theirs, so you kept the entrepreneurial spirit. That's an insane story. So how many totally partnerships like this did you do? Yeah.
Today, we have something like 46 subsidiaries.
Which are all these different people in all the metros in India, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And so I just want to understand what is the mindset for you to, because you're going to someone who's running a kind of successful business by themselves. How do you give them an offer that they can't refuse? And how do you negotiate with them?
A success breeds success. So when they saw these guys hugely successful, they said, these are the best of the best. Why did they join them? So those guys said, so word went around in the industry.
Right.
So you have to be part of this.
Right.
If you're part of this, and then we treated them so well that, we actually paid the, good multiple, but not fantastic. It was a rational multiple. But what we were able to do is, because of better working capital, because of better systems that we were able to control it, those guys could really grow. And they saw that growth story everywhere. And they said, I want to be part of that.
You, Shobana, built India's largest pharmacy, Apollo Pharmacy. Pretty much, when you got it, it was like a small thing on the side. You built India's largest medicine distribution network, and you built India's largest online healthcare platform, Apollo 24/7. So basically, as I was doing research, I was like, you are a triple unicorn. I just want to understand more about how did you develop this mindset coming from, a reasonably well-off family to start with, to be such a roll up your sleeves kind of person. I just want to understand that secret sauce.
So first of all, I think that what I do really well is to, and I probably got that from my dad, is to be able to motivate people. So it's not like I was sitting there and buying and putting up the pharmacies and this thing. We had such a depth of people who even today, like my CEO started out, he started out as a pharmacist in a store.
Wow.
Today, he is one of India's best CEOs. Ask him about data. The CEO that I have for the distribution business, the guy came from a retail background, and he was there like hard charging, negotiating. So the thing is that they would do lots of the setup. But I think that the biggest compliment I got from my CEO, we were going, like I was visiting all our outposts, speaking to about 2,000 people at each place for, just before the financial year ended, just thanking them for the year, what we were looking at. And I heard him introduce me, and he said, she's like us. She works like 7 days a week. To me, that was my biggest compliment. The fact that, that they look at me as somebody who is there with them on the front line. You need a general, but you need a hardworking general. And I think that's probably what I am and what I impossibly expect from everyone, including the new gen of my tech, this thing of what
of course.
we have.
And what drove you? What drives you to work so hard?
There's so much, out there that things, that you can be better, that, I was getting bored in the pharmacy. I said, what is this? We know how to open one store a day like McDonald's. We do this. What's happening? And then all of a sudden, e-commerce came along. This 1mg and all these guys. And I said, what? This can really disrupt us. And that's when we got into it and learned, so then back in the trenches, getting this together, figuring it out and putting it together. So that became, at every stage, I think there's something exciting. Now with this merger coming in, how do we take it across? How do we take it, make it so ubiquitous? So at every stage, India's story is all that, tomorrow is there's something exciting coming. So you either get drowned, or when you're out there and you're conquering those waves, it's such a cool feeling.
And that was, I guess, the genesis for Apollo 24/7.
Right.
When you saw commerce, quick commerce, e-commerce happening, you're like, and that's so interesting because a lot of chemists who I know also didn't do that. They didn't think that we're just sitting out here, but someone is going to take that middle distribution away. Why don't we do the whole thing? And this is our opportunity to build an app and to run the whole thing,
Right.
which is what you've done basically.
That's what we did.
You built Apollo Munich Health Insurance into one of the best specialized insurance players, and then you had to sell it. And you said it was very traumatic for you. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We had got into the business, and in the early years, it was about the Germans. They came in and they said, oh, we know so much more about it. And very quickly we realized that you cannot get a foreign implant working in India. Fortunately, another great CEO, fabulous team that we had. This to me is the best thing. I'm always successful when I have a fantastic team. And anybody who's getting into entrepreneurship, just make sure that you have this team. A couple of years later, I think there was a problem of how they had two kind of similar JVs running. And at that point, we said, what's better for the company? They needed capital. We ourselves, at that time, if you remember, pre-COVID, Apollo had a lot of shares pledged. So at that point, they said, why don't we learn? And I said, I built this business for 11 years. It's like really tough to let this go. But then we realized that, again, when you were able to sit and look at it, objectively, we could not grow it to the greatest. This would help the family and everyone in our, and all my top team would benefit also. And they would all be like, they've gone on to start great companies themselves. So in that point, when we let it go, I felt that I had the pain, but I was able to learn to let go. It's a great talent. But the thing is that as long as I thought it's my baby, you'd never give it away. Once you look at it objectively, then it becomes
right.
At that point, I said, this is the right thing to do.
So, just talking about your teams, because You obviously have very good teams. So what do you look for when you're getting a team? Like, what can you give us some 2-3 things that you look for?
I think the must-haves is that you have to you bring some amount of good knowledge, because I think that having your own background chops that you have gives you that confidence. I'll never hire anyone that's arrogant. So many people with this thing. So because there's only one boss in that room. Very clearly, I'm not a player that is like, that won't take prisoners.
Right.
With this, I think it's a bad thing. But like my kids say now, after 40 years, why do you expect her to change? It's better you,
Right.
you've just come in. So, I mean, that's my style. And the thing is that, but they know that again, I will be fair, I'll be kind. Once they realize that we're doing things for a better thing, then everybody comes in. So I want to spend time talking to them and getting them to figure this out. And once we do, and I saw that even in 247, because it was a very different team. Oh, look at us, we are tech, we do all these. But then when we said it's about a cause, that we're doing something for, my dad always brings it to the patient, or, so I bring it to the customer. I feel that centricity, when you have this common mission, when you can build that, and it's easy for us in healthcare, because if you know that anything you do is making a difference here. So whether you're with us for 1 year or you're with us for 20 years, but at that point in time, you've made a difference. That helps. It really helps. So we have some people in there that when they come in and they get into that mission critical, then they're able to say that we'll do this. I like to break silos. I think that it's important, but I realize that you can't break silos unless you align incentive. If it's not aligned, we took 5 years to get the e-commerce side with the online and the offline pharmacy guys together.
The incentives weren't aligned, right?
No, it wasn't.
They're like, you're stealing my business.
Discounts.
Right.
They were doing all kinds of profligate stuff,
right,
because they were running like an e-commerce. That's what the way. Then we said no in this world. So finally, everybody came to an uneasy and said, we need to do this. So and at that point, everybody realized. So this is now the tide turning. And why I say we are the biggest platform, because we're one. We're so aligned of how we look at customer. So a customer that comes into our...
So focusing on that North Star in a way.
Yeah.
Amazing. Apollo today has the hospitals, the pharmacy, the distribution, and the online platform. When you step back, what do you call this whole thing?
It's an ecosystem play. So I ask people when they come into the organization and they said, oh, we joined Apollo because you have such a great ecosystem for a patient comes in when we had insurance, but we do have distribution of insurance. So we have all parts, whether from financing to, preventive, to all these, that you have, and they can access it online, offline, wherever, across the spectrum. And we have the best functioning at the highest level. And they say that's why you have this one fantastic ecosystem that nobody in the world has. And you have the overlaying data and all that. And I just take a deep breath. I said, we're so siloed, to tell you the truth. And that's when Dad said, he called us into the room about 4 or 5 years ago. And he said, I'm really, I love you as daughters, but I'm very disappointed with you as managers.
Oh, wow.
We're so family connected. With my sisters are like, we are a team, and that we were like, what is he saying? We're rocking. This is some 3 years ago. And he said, each one of you is so good individually, but if you work as a team, you'll be exceptional. And that was the day that we said, we're breaking these silos. How would it really look? Because each one, they thought Apollo thought, oh, we can build the best tech.
Yes.
Our 247 guy said, oh, what do they know? Look at our artificial intelligence. We have some 100 people working in Bangalore and where this thing. And so, I mean, just starting at that level. And then when we all sat together and said, let's think about it from the customer, let's think about it from the patient. And when you start putting that view together, and then, of course, aligning the incentives. So give us a year or two. This system will rock. It's already starting to. But I think that, again, it's Dad who brought us back. And
that's amazing. Okay, small pause. This is the part where I'm supposed to ask you to subscribe. But honestly, only do it if you want more conversations that actually make you think. That's the whole point of the secret sauce. All right, back to it. When you built Apollo 24/7, what problem were you trying to solve?
So I was at a point where I was national, had many, many, many customers. And we said, when you're sitting there in communities, you know that it's not always the case. Probably in a lot of people's lifetimes, they'll never visit a hospital. So there's about...
Really? Lucky them.
Yeah, I mean, 80%, well, you'll take somebody to a hospital, but you yourself won't come under a knife or, do this. So, about 80% of healthcare is outside the hospital. So that's the problem that we were trying to solve, to say that, and this is what I went to the Apollo board and said, let me work on that. And when they get sick, they will know Apollo so well, you'll be the natural choice. So it becomes a seamless integration. And they said, well, go out there. We believe in you because of the pharmacy. And then we said, so can we do this? So my sister Sangeeta was really good at tech, and she had a lot of this platform bit. I was able to pull that into this because we said, we have scale business. Let's not do things small. Let's put this in at scale. And so we said, let's have this tech platform, that MVP. And at that point, I think we were really kind of busy because I just sold Apollo Munich and we didn't know too much. But I said, we need to do this because 1MG and all these people had started Farm Easy. Everyone was looking so aggressive that they're going to take away our business. At that point, I said, we don't have the time. We can't, the guys that we have don't have that kind of vision or ability. So I went to McKinsey and I said, what would it take? And that too, for this, I went to Dominic Barton and I said, will you be my partner? I'll give you some equity and this thing. And they actually said, we'll do this for you. So we had a price, and we also had this thing that, this whole partnership. So we created, I love to call it a Rolls Royce garage. And they had 40 people there. We built this whole thing. And we said, here's the MVP that we have 3 propositions. One is that we'll give you medicine seamlessly with this thing. We'll deliver it to you, or you can come and get it at the store. But medicine is our biggest. And so we're solving for that. Whoever needs it, wherever they need
medicine,
it.
yes.
And the second thing is a doctor. I can give you, at that time they had all this telemedicine and this thing, but I said, I'll give you an Apollo doctor. In 15 minutes, you can speak to an Apollo doctor.
In 15 minutes?
In 15 minutes, I'll open the doors to an Apollo doctor for you. And the third thing is, I'll give you diagnostics at home. Why do you have to come to get everything done at the hospital? It's daunting. We'll send this to you because Apollo Diagnostics, Sangeeta had set up this diagnostics unit. So like Metropolis and all these. So this is something that we had.
Blood tests and everything.
So yeah, blood tests. So we had 3 propositions and we said, here's the platform. But I felt that because we had this platform, the best part of this platform and the stickiest part is your health records. At which point we went to Google and we said, look, we're on Google Cloud. Give me more. And I met Sundar. I met a lot of folks, at Google, and I said, put this together for me. So they gave us 15 engineers. So our health records if you log on to Apollo 247 at any time, if you've had a test at Apollo, it automatically populates. And we encourage many people. So I have all my records, and it'll give me a graph. Over 14 years, I have all my records.
Which is what everyone wants, but today it's all piecemeal.
So,
and you have to shove it into ChatGPT to get a mixed record, basically.
Exactly. So we have it crafted and the way you want it with the insights. And then we took the hospital's engine, the CIE, which was built not only on the LLMs, but we used our data as an SLM with doctor and peer reviewed. So we think that we actually have a better, and called it Ask Apollo for the patients, for the customer. And for the doctors, they use the CIE. So what it does is it brings, sometimes you have levels of doctors. If you go to one doctor, a different doctor for the same problem, you might get 2-3 different diagnoses.
For sure.
So what happens is it gives you 80% comes up there saying that this is what it is. Now the other 20%, a doctor has to do it based on that patient, based on this thing. But what we've done is we've smoothened this process to this level now. And I think that's what's exciting in medicine. So this is something we've done. And for the patient, it's Ask Apollo. And why I think I'm better than ChatGPT for most people, yes. What happens is it's contextual. It has your records there. And so it says, Shobana, this is the thing. So I can ask it what my drug-drug interactions is. This is my prescription. Automatically, it will tell
you. Can ask everything.
And it gives you automatically. If you buy something from Apollo today, it's a prescription. If you're online with us, it'll tell you how to take the medicine.
Right.
Do it after this meal, this much water, this is the drug-drug interaction. These things, the doctor doesn't always have time to tell you, which is why I think we are really the best healthcare system. And we have already 1 crore of people who have paid money, who have paid me 150 rupees and signed on to our
150 rupees
program.
For one time?
No, yeah, yearly.
Annual 150 rupees?
Yeah. So,
and can I upload, if I've done a blood test with some other provider, can I upload that also?
Totally. If you just give, if it's on Gmail and you just give permission, it'll automatically upload. Otherwise, you take a picture and we have that encryption software and we're doing it in languages.
Because I think that's, for me personally, that is the biggest issue you have now, that everything is there. And I know it's going to come together, but it's not yet come together, except in Apollo.
But if you really think about it, many people have come to us because we still have this discount philosophy. Okay, I can get a little bit more discount if I'm a circle member. But I think if I can get these guys, they stay on because the stickiness comes because I also look after you. And I will do this. And this is what I think will differentiate us. Can I tell you a story?
Of course.
So we inaugurated this on February 5th, my dad's birthday. The platform went live 2020.
My son's birthday.
Really? Oh, it's going to be a
That's great.
Great start.
That's what a lot of people say. I don't know about that. He knows him well, but yes.
Yeah. It's a good day.
Fair.
So anyway, so we inaugurated this in 2020. And at that point, February 5th, March 22nd, India went into lockdown.
Right.
COVID lockdown. People could not access their doctors. The doctors couldn't access their patients. In 45 days, we onboarded 3,500 doctors.
Right.
To get them connected to their patients. At that point, we were getting, there was one day where we surged with almost 70,000 orders. Yes, we had no clue. Even today we do, if we get 70,000, well, I get peak.
Right.
But at that time, when we were starting out, so we made tons of mistakes at that point. But
the system wasn't ready yet to deal with that.
It was not ready. The India system, it didn't have the blinkets and the number of couriers. But we were up there. And I think that was fortuitous because it's better that you start in a time of crisis and work yourself up then oh, my shiny new door is ready and you don't have any customers coming in. So I thought, to me, this trial by fire was something that really was important to us in terms of our growth, and we were able to take it. I have pharmacy fellows. When we phoned up, ultimately we were doing it like
You had to get into phone calls and all.
this
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, of course.
So walk 2 kilometers to give an old lady her this thing. And some of the stuff we do, when I meet people, they tell me, we order now for our parents. This is something which is really a great use case, because you're urban, you know how to do this, but your parents are in a
Smaller
tier
town,
2,
right,
smaller
right.
town, village. And here your medicine reaches.
Yeah.
And it's all these things. So they feel so connected and cared for. And I think this is also a very beautiful thing that we do for India.
So, I just want to ask you more about the AI thing, and as we get into the future, because everyone in our audience will be using paid or unpaid, Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, putting their reports up there. Everyone in our audience will be doing that. What excites you the most about Apollo 24/7 for, a patient?
I really think that that should become your health companion, because while it's truly integrated with doctors, it'll never make doctors redundant. So they really respect who you are, you're the doctors that you have. We do almost 17,000 neighborhood doctors. We connect them on Google My Business.
Right.
So it's not like some part of our business is also Apollo agnostic, that we're helping the whole ecosystem of doctors just become better. And I think this is very important for our doctor, that they trust that we're not there to put them out of business, because this is sometimes, that these new founders, I hear them talk saying that, oh, you never have to go to a hospital again. You never have to be a doctor again. That's wrong. We are a high-tech, high-touch business. And I think that's important to understand, that, you will need, but how do you make it better? How do you make the experience better? Because we've seen with telemedicine, the doctors are so happy, because the first 2 times you go for a diagnosis, you get that, but you still have 3 more visits that you don't need to find a parking slot and go there and this thing. You can just do it at you and the doctor's convenience over this nice video
thing,
setup. And the fact that you don't do it on WhatsApp, because you have to establish a HIPAA regulated payment system and the liability and everything, So this is something that we do. The boundary conditions also are important. So this is so all this happens for them, and they keep the chat window open also.
Yes.
So I think from the teleconsult, it's a good experience. And then, of course, this whole thing of diagnostics and how you can put it all together and you get the readings, and because people don't understand, they just do these tests. But sometimes, now they've been told,
there's so much wastage. I know. You do
LDH,
20 tests.
You have to do this.
Yes,
you have to do something else. No, you do those 20 tests, but you don't realize that the main test of something is missing. And then you blame it on the doctor. You blame it on the
information
hospital system.
asymmetry. I am more connected with doctors than most people I know, for sure. And I'm very tech savvy. But still, I can see that the information asymmetry is just so massive. Because I think what I want to talk to you is about, like most people are, India is the country of the whole world is, but India has massive lifestyle disease problems, diabetes capital, everybody's diabetic or pre-diabetic, heart problems, everything, cancer, everything. So these are the biggest things which everybody is going to get, basically. So how can you help with prevention?
So this is something I think that Dad himself is so personally involved for the last 20 years. This whole thing of having that first checkup, and it depends on your level. So it starts there. I think that it's very important to create those baselines and to have it available with you. So different people can afford different baselines. Sometimes they sell these tests for, they sell these tests. The government has said, okay, you have mandatory, but they'll do it for $500. They'll do it for $1,000. It's okay. At least that's something. But the real tests that you can do, I'm sure you've gone to those centers where it's a
executive profile kind of thing.
And you do a whole body MRI, and so you build this.
I've not done a whole body MRI.
You should.
Really?
Yeah.
Nobody's told me that.
we have
Apollo
a
does all this,
great-
is it?
We have a great test, Pro Health, that does this entire story.
A whole body MRI.
Whole body MRI. We do your genetic testing, everything. Because once you've got your baseline set, and what you would be, this thing predisposed to with this thing. I didn't know that I was BRCA2, and the thing is that till the incident happened, and now retrospectively, and I'm thinking, damn.
What is BRCA2? I'm sorry.
So the incidence that you would have breast cancer is
Right.
goes to 60%.
Oh.
So, and I had it. But the
Oh.
whole thing is that, but I caught it so early again because of Apollo.
Of course.
With that regular testing. So these are the things that you have to set the highest bar baseline of good stuff that you can do. And after that, this record will just keep building.
It's like the 101 situation.
But here we'll do all this thing of the cancers. You can do almost 21 cancer.
PSA.
Yeah, that detection, this thing.
But genetics? With genetics?
Genetics. So, and then, and these are good ones that you can actually do. Then when you have your baseline MRI, it's radiation free.
I know it's radiation free.
So it's this thing that you can get,
I think people are scared to lie down.
Alignment to, oh my God, that machine we have in Hyderabad, they're now all across India is so cool. I look at a podcast and then you'll hear the tuck, 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 but you don't feel claustrophobic.
Right.
And you just give 1 hour.
There's that screen in front of you.
Yeah, that screen in front of you. So it's not so bad. It looks at your brain, where you are, how this thing, your carotid arteries, so many things that you miss, your heart, your heart function. Now we're able to tell that,
Wow.
ahead of time. And when you mix it with the tests, I think it really gives you a very, very strong baseline of what you can, this thing. So to me, it's a good safety factor, especially anyone who's over 40 should start investing in that.
For sure.
You don't need to do this every year.
Yeah.
Okay, so first set a baseline, and I think every third year or fourth year, whatever, depending on what you're at risk for.
Got it.
With this. So
one more thing to add with my colonoscopy that's waiting for me.
See,
I know.
but now they have the thing that you can just swallow the camera and they'll just take the imaging.
Oh, you don't have to do colonoscopy anymore?
This is more high end, but yeah, you can ask for that.
Right, I didn't know that.
this.
I've been postponing because I don't want to do the colonoscopy. I'm not very
No,
excited about it.
They have much nicer ways of doing it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And how many what do you call it, users do you have in Apollo 24/7?
So there are about 42 million people that have downloaded our app.
Right.
It's astonishing that they're not using it. Okay, they're not regular users, but they're not deleting it.
Right.
And I always wonder, what is this? So if I can bridge that space with this thing, and now what's happening is a lot of them have become omni. So we're encouraging people that come offline to our pharmacies, download the app, you get your you get your prescription on this, you get all this, and then so what's happening is that we're creating those connections for stickiness. And I think once they start using it more and more and more, to give you an example of Airtel, they have like 300 million users, but how many people have their app or use their app with this? Pretty much the same. But once we can figure out how we can make this part of your life and your medical record is that, and figure out a way for them to keep opening it, saying that here's a good schedule for today, or this is what you need to do. That to me is my holy grail of how I can get those users more connected.
Yeah.
And it's not just about a transaction, but it's about how we can connect you.
And you published this report called the Health of the Nation report.
Yeah.
So I just want to understand, for our audience, with all you have so many data points. You have, like you said, millions of people, from your pharmacy, you have the hospital, you have Apollo 24/7. Yeah, I think you have more data points than anyone in India, in the world also, one of the most. What have you found were the biggest eye-openers with all these data points?
It's kind of different than it, we're seeing shifting patterns. More in the metros than in this thing. But again, tier 2, tier 3, for instance, the use of GLP, the way that it surged in India. but everyone is scared. So they have concerns, but they still want to use it. They're trying to figure out, this thing. And it was like, it became the largest selling drug. So we're seeing some of those things of how they're looking at obesity, because this is a problem in India. If you look at the reports that we have been publishing for the last 4 or 5 years, especially at the workplace, heart disease still among the earliest in the world of when Indians
youngest.
But what we're seeing is that the rise in detection of cancer. 10 years ago, when we did the report, you had more stage 4. Now that's slowly reducing as people are getting more and more that detection is available. So I think slowly the country is moving towards understanding how some of these things are important. We're also, government has more access points. The government is working on things like telemedicine. They're working in the small villages. So the way that India is shifting is that we can't do it at a really expensive. We can't. Our healthcare prices can't balloon because we can't afford.
Of course.
But then again, if you look at it, what we've seen is that the cost of avoiding detection could cost us almost $4 trillion a year.
Actually, there's no question. Exactly. So, it's the same as air pollution. When people say, but this is costing so much, I'm like, actually, it's not, because the medical cost is 100 times more than anything else.
Look at the COPD cases.
I know.
And now in Bombay also, we had, the surge in
last 10 years, last 5-7 years. Yeah. So that cost that they think of, 1% more builders will have to pay, for example, to make their buildings dust proof. And they're like, oh my God, 1% more, it comes to 1,000 crores or whatever.
Yeah.
But the 100 million people who are falling ill, first productivity and then actual health is like trillion. There's no number only.
It's huge.
But people aren't understanding that yet, I think. Something more about, everybody talks about AI replacing doctors, like you said. Do you think that all doctors should be conversant with AI now, or what do you think can happen? Because you need a doctor and you need AI. What is the middle ground for our audience?
The middle ground is a knowledgeable patient. It always works better when, a patient has done some research, either for their family member or themselves, and you can ask the doctor with that, because it challenges them to do better. But don't trust that the ultimate verdict will come from this, or that everything can be replaced, or you're completely okay. This is tough territory. I don't think that it'll ever get, that people will think that it can be replaced 100%, that you can go in and a robotic surgery will sit and do this for you and you don't have to, no human touch. That's not going to happen. We've been using robotics for ages. What does a robot do? It makes every surgeon into a superstar surgeon. If you, for instance, Naresh Trehan in his heyday, what was great about him? Ambidextrous. So as a heart surgeon, to get to the back and to do those surgeries. But now a robot can make an average surgeon that.
Right.
So, and especially the young ones. But then again, the scare is, so we have like one of the best robotic surgeons for gynecology. I mean, she's world renowned, Dr. Ruma. But the thing is that she does not forget how to do
the normal
stuff, because you still, when you get into a problem, you'll have to go in there and cut and all that. So we think that even from a surgeon perspective, they need that old training. They need to be well versed in that, and you add this skill. So you're just making them better, and that's what AI does. It's the same thing with the patient. You're better informed, you get all this information. So when you go out there, your outcomes will be much superior to a guy that goes in and says, oh, doctor, mujhe bachao.
And just one thing about medical tourism, you were saying that Apollo hospitals are being built now for people from all over outside India to come to it also?
Sure. We've had that for ages.
From which countries?
They'll come from... we've had patients from US, we've had England, long waiting lines with this thing, but our regular is people from the Middle East, but Africa,
right.
Indonesia with this thing. Now I heard Russia sends almost 30,000 cases to Korea.
Right.
I mean, these are things that can come to India at much less cost.
Right.
So I think there's an opportunity in all these countries, especially when we do the high-end work.
What do you think the future of the healthcare industry will look like?
I think that there's a lot of consolidation going in, happening. So from the hospitals, it's really not about funding anymore because there's enough money chasing it. And it's just that, are they buying it at value or are they driving the wrong incentives into people that cause
And what do you think
distrust?
of that? The whole PE thing that is...
Anything that creates distrust in the ultimate patient, saying that these people are overcharging me.
Misalignment.
I hate that. Yeah, so the misalignment. But I think the ability for small doctors to be able to get money, to be able to expand, like Apollo did, good thing. So to me, it's just that misalignment. We have to get
the people have to balance it out. I'm
People
taking
have
money
to
from
balance.
someone, then I have to have an ethical core or not.
Exactly.
It's more that.
So the whole thing is that I think that it'll also get a lot more democratized. We'll have it in tier 2, tier 3. We'll be doing great surgeries. With latency of 5G, you can operate from metro, great doctor, using a junior doctor there.
Remote operations.
Yeah, remote operations. So there'll be lots of that. The tech will be able to drive better outcomes. We'll find infections faster. We'll be able to diagnose things ahead of time. So I think that responsibly done, we can actually bring down the cost of healthcare, serve many, many more people. But this requires a whole cadre from doctors to the support staff to be trained. And I think this is what India should be investing in, that best training. And when we are ace at that, we will be there for the graying world. So it's a win-win for us. So I think that's why Apollo has invested in medical colleges, has been able, we're trying to bring that thing of a global workforce. So to me, that's an exciting place to be in.
And last question, Hari, what is the, you build 3 verticals. What is the total revenue of the 3 verticals?
Today, we closed. We're not officially together, but if we were able to take out the thing, it's about 22,000 crores.
Wow.
But growing at 20%.
And this is all being merged into one.
Into one. So possibly by 2030, we should be about 45,000 crores.
Wow. Just the 3 things that you built, not the hospital.
No, not the hospital.
And the amazing thing in this for a patient is that you have the integration of, you have the super app from which you can buy medicines, you can talk to real doctors, you have AI, which you need to assist the doctors as well. And you have all your medical reports and tests coming home. And you have the hospital connection as well in the long run.
Absolutely.
Which is what
and we sell you insurance.
And you said that's good also. That'll come anyway with the whole thing.
We think that India is very underinsured.
Of course it is. So fantastic. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you.